Do you suffer from lifestyle deficit disorder? The purpose of the Perfect Day podcast is to share simple steps and strategies as a powerful antidote to lifestyle deficit disorder. Listen in as I reveal a path away from disillusionment and dissatisfaction to a life of purpose, joy, and freedom, making every day a perfect day. Welcome to the Perfect Day podcast. I'm Cokie Berenyi, author of Perfect Day and founder of Perfect Day Connect. I am on a mission to make more days of yours perfect. Today we have with us Stanfield Gray of Dig South Media and founder of the Dig South Tech Conference here in Charleston, South Carolina. Stan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Cokie. I'm super glad to be here. It's a beautiful day.
It is. You have already made this a perfect day for me.
Thank you.
I have to tell listeners a few sound bites that is near and dear to me, which is I launched my Perfect Day, the book, the speaking series, consulting part of my practice last year at Dig South, and it was a smash. And while that might not be the Gary V soundbite for Dig South, the conference, it was a raging success for me and embodied a perfect day for me. So
I mean, I am not blowing smoke. It is bigger than a Gary V. And I'll tell you why, because launch events are why we started Dig South, to help entrepreneurs succeed in the South. And many entrepreneurs believe they're inventing the future, they're reinventing themselves, they're doing these things. And every year we try to attach a launch event, not only to the conference, but to the networking events, any moment we can squeeze one in, and including the pitch events. And it's incredible to see it years down the road grow and turn into something, sometimes it may pivot to another idea, but the seed of it was still planted there. That just blows me away. I love it.
Yeah, it was, the conference I've enjoyed attending in the past, and just having a more meaningful speaking opportunity, and just to be able to be a bigger part of Dig South last year was the best part of my year. So thank you. And thank you for making today perfect by being here. In Perfect Day true format, I always want to start in gratitude. I know you were running around the conference last year, so I'm sure you listened to the replay of everything I had to say in my breakout, right?
Right.
Well, and in the event you didn't, we always start with gratitude. And I wanted to read you something that I received today. And it says this: Stan is a rock, always supportive, kind, and optimistic. He's creative, a problem solver, and he keeps me laughing.
That is incredibly nice. Thank you.
And who would that be?
My day. My wife.
It was your wife. It was your wife. Now, I know there are probably 40 other people. We have quite a few Facebook friends, by the way. I bet there were, in fact, I think there may be 63 of them. Mm-hmm. And I bet you 53 of them would have said the exact same thing. So, so that's something to be grateful for. And she's also grateful for the fact that you prep her coffee, because is she a late bird?
No, she's a very early riser.
Oh, so she's the early riser, so you prep the coffee.
I'm a late bird, so I do the dishes, prep the coffee, and I close up the house at the end of the night. Turn all the lights off.
Nice.
Sonny opens up the house. Turns everything back on. The coffee is there, and I love doing that for her.
So a perfect day for her may be coffee's prepped and ready.
That's right.
Just the little things,
it
right?
Is, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can I take you back to perhaps, was it July 2012?
Okay, let's go there.
Where were you? What were you doing? What were you thinking? What was going on in your life?
Wow, July 2012. So I'm going to call this an aha and an oh shit moment.
Okay.
How about that? I don't know
love
if I can say that on the air.
Thank you. Yes.
So the summer before, I went to the Ad Age Digital Conference in New York in 2011. I was blown away with what was happening, and cloud computing cloud computing was emerging in a big way. The Apple Store had launched a couple years before and opened that up to outside developers. So things were bubbling up and happening and starting to happen in Charleston that I thought were really interesting, exciting. I was doing marketing at the College of Charleston. I went to Ad Age, very small conference. Jim Bankoff, who I'll get to in a minute, was one of the speakers. Ariana Huffington closed it. But it was a small conference, high level, and I was blown away with the ideas. I came back to Charleston, and then I was also frustrated that we didn't have opportunities to interact on the same level with big thinkers doing projects like that in Charleston and across most of the South. It wasn't happening in the same way as New York and Silicon Valley and Boston. So I thought about that in the fall, and then I decided to launch. I was thinking about launching Dig South. You know, should we do this or should I do something like this? What I have in my skill set, I know lots of people. I've worked on other conferences. I produced many events. I love big ideas, deep thinking. I love technology. So all that was swirling around in my brain. The fall came, and I was, Sonny and I were discussing all of this. Then spring 2012, I was thinking about doing it, and then but I let myself get kind of run down too. My back was in bad shape. I just wasn't feeling good. I was sitting at the desk too much at my other job, and I decided to get back in shape, and so I was about to turn, let's see, what year was that? About, 42. So I was getting back in shape. I felt great. I came in one morning, I was shaving before work, and I found a lump on my neck, on my shoulder.
I had no idea where this is going.
Right.
Wow.
And so I thought, well, what is that? It's not really a gland. It's in a weird spot, but I feel good, so I have to go to the doctor. The doctor sends me to do an x-ray first before the MRI, and then he does a biopsy, and he's really concerned, very worried. He says, this is what I think it is. It could be very serious. It could be, or it could be benign. We don't know. So then I have the biopsy done, but it's like late on a Friday, so I have the whole weekend to think about this thing.
No,
so
that's not a perfect weekend.
Not a perfect weekend.
No.
And I've got two really young kids at the time. I think they were like 4 and 6 or whatever. Garrison still have to do the math going back in time. But they, I'm looking at them, thinking about Sonny. I'm unfulfilled in my current job. I've got this idea, but, can I leave my job? Should I pull the trigger? It's a big deal, launching a new venture. And Sonny just says, yes, let's do it. Let's go for it. So over that weekend, I kind of decided, well, what if, So then I go into the doctor. It turns out it is benign. It's a tumor, schwannoma of the brachial plexus. Not a big deal. They'll keep an eye on it. I'll eventually have to have it removed, but it's not going to kill me. It's not malignant. So I'm like, whew, but then I go home and I think, but it makes me think really hard, as a kind of an ah shit moment. What if I didn't launch Dig South? What if I didn't do something big and new and that really excited me? And that would be a real bummer to me, to kind of like for my last gig to be something that's not inspiring me at the moment. I haven't, I've got other pursuits, other bucket list things. So that made it in some ways really easy for me to take that leap and just do Dig South and dive in. And so I felt prepared, and I felt like now or never.
Awesome. I call this in the book ER moments. That was an ER moment.
Absolutely.
Almost literally, right? I mean, doctor's office, ER.
Yeah, I don't want to overstate it because I didn't have cancer, so it wasn't that, but it was enough to make me think, and easily could have been.
Well, it's unfortunate, what I've found is that it's these, again, pardon the phrase, but ER moments that are sometimes a blessing because they give you that opportunity to have a second look and say, well, what if? Almost like what you did.
Right.
I just wonder, how do you sidestep the ER moments? Do you feel that every person, entrepreneur or not, do you feel that every person is capable of sidestepping an ER moment and making transformational change like you did?
I do. Yeah.
Awesome.
I used to think it was more about momentum, just like staying in gear, taking every meeting, going to everything, just, absorb, just letting the fire hose of experiences come in and then following some of those. But then I learned that I was making too many choices, and I started to get burnout and overwhelmed. That for me, I could only sustain that for 2 or 3 years at that kind of,
Right.
the grind, the hustle. And I didn't want to pull back on work, but I needed to reframe it. So now Sonny and I had a deep discovery session last summer, and our new mantra this year is the tip of the spear. And so what we decided was,
I like it.
How do we, narrow the focus on all these things we're passionate about, and how do we drive more purpose and meaning around fewer things and go deeper on those, the essential things, and not necessarily block out the others, but just decide they can't also be priorities. Like, in other words, in my mind, it can't be a completely flat structure. There has to be some hierarchy to my personal drive and needs, or I'm just going to burn out trying to do all of them. So I think
you've read the
entrepreneur can
book.
do that.
I can't believe it. I'm impressed. No,
Thank you.
well done. Yeah.
So that's what we've been trying to do. And I'll have to give Todd Zangrillo a great, excellent new friend who helped me frame it that way. That came from him, and it's what he's done in his life, and he's been highly successful. He's the one that brought us the Casper CEO, Philip Krim,
Yes.
Liza Landsman,
Yes.
Jet.com.
I heard all of them.
And Todd has a powerful network, and he basically taught me that he was able to build this network by drilling down into e-commerce and a certain type of venture-backed startup in a certain space that he has just obsessively mastered and followed, rather than trying to look at all executives in the world.
Right.
Broad. And so, Todd, that was his suggestion that we follow that plan. And so far, we feel like it's working.
Very, very nice. So would you say that there was a dark moment? You were on the hamster wheel with the never-ending flat to-do list spread out across all spectrums and industries, not necessarily all industries, but was there a moment in your Dig South career where you said, something's got to give? Was his name Todd?
Right, Todd Zangrillo.
Yeah, I need Todd. I need help. Something's got to give.
Yes, absolutely.
And what did that look like?
That looked like creating a lot of opportunities that all seemed exciting but weren't driving revenue. And I am, to be perfectly honest, I am terrible at revenue decisions, because I only view money and revenue as like a vehicle to something else, to a more exciting adventure, to more time with my family, great food, cool place to live. But I'm not money oriented, and I don't frame things around money. But I know to be a successful entrepreneur, to run a business, to be able to give back and participate, I do need income and a revenue stream. And I also need to make sure that that does align with the greater purpose and the mission. I know a lot of people say, well, do what you love and passion and the money will follow. Yes and no. I think you still have to take the time to learn what it is you're trying to do and how much money you need and how to budget it and all those things. I don't think it necessarily always just comes because you're diving into various passions. That to me feels like, when I believe that I was naive to believe that. And so I think that's where the hustle and grind kind of came in, where I was worn out, is that I realized it's not going to come just because I meet 6,000 people a year and discuss every idea they've ever had, and I'm, and I'm driving all that to a conference, and now a media company and some other ideas, that I actually have to build really solid revenue models around that. And the other cool thing is I learned that is interesting too to me in a way that I didn't think it was. So I am excited about the revenue model and what that means, because that can also help prioritize in a meaningful way. And not that, I'm not going to do that just because it doesn't make money, but I'm not going to do that because it doesn't serve the greater purpose. And it also doesn't make money. It doesn't make sense.
And didn't that drive you to your passion in the end?
I think so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
More on lifestyle deficit disorder and a perfect day with Stan Gray and Dig South. Hi, I'm Cokie Berenyi with Perfect Day and Perfect Day Connect. The Perfect Day workshop experience, which we deliver annually, hopefully in a city near you, is a great time and experience to take time out of your busy schedules to work on your business as opposed to working in your business. We just finished an amazing workshop here today in Charleston, South Carolina, and what happened was exactly what I thought would happen.
Yes, I can definitely relate to the lifestyle deficit disorder as an entrepreneur because there's only so much time in your day, right? But I think it's also what you choose to focus on, what you choose to apply your time to, and making sure that you're using every moment in the way that you truly want to use it, that moves you towards your vision.
A lot of these things you know in your head, you just needed somebody to get you off the mark.
Hone in on what am I doing and have that clarity and consciousness about how am I spending my life? How am I spending my resources? And time being the greatest.
A very productive, very insightful exercise to go through to really examine those different layers of the 4 buckets.
Then I really think that the Perfect Day process could benefit you. It's this idea of marrying our money and our finances to that of our values and what's really, really important to us, so that we can find this life of joy and happiness. My goal is to impact entrepreneurs and individuals alike who just feel that they have a never-ending to-do list and or have very little time to give back, which ultimately gives them joy and happiness in life. So with that, until we meet again, have a perfect day. Welcome back to the Perfect Day podcast. I've got Stan Gray with Dig South here with us today. Again,
Hey,
Stan,
everyone.
thank you.
Thank you, Cokie.
Yes. You know, I said it earlier, but I want to give another shout out to Dig South and what I think is one of the greatest sound bites. You know, one of my very perfect days was a Dig South, wasn't last year, it was 2 years ago. So one of my perfect days was not the launch Perfect Day, but the year prior.
When your daughter was with you.
Yes.
In the audience.
Have you heard this story?
No. I just remember her being there.
So it was National Bring Your Child to Work Day or something. And my kids go to the greatest school here in Charleston, University School. And they attend Dig South every year, which I think is great. And my daughter, we're driving into school that day, and I say, okay, well, if you're there and you're lucky enough to hear Gary Vee, the F-bomb's going to be thrown around.
Right.
So be big girls and just smile and don't giggle, and it's all good. So as I typically do at a conference, I'm front row. And I sat front row, and the girls sat next to me. There was it was a panel, and multiple of the panelists said, we don't have enough women in tech, and we're not educating our kids enough towards tech. And at the end, I was befuddled because it was turned to the audience for questions, and I think Gary Vee sort of makes people verklempt, and no one wanted to ask a question. So I immediately stood up and said, excuse me, we have 2 young girls here wanting to be in tech. Can you just speak to them and say hi? And so they got to go up on stage, and my daughter, shook hands, got pictures with Gary Vee. It was a beautiful day. But all that aside, let me move my green juice. Sorry. This is incredible. I hope the camera can see this, but this is incredible.
This is one of the only conferences in my life that I've ever been to more than once. I think you have the potential to do something very meaningful with what you're doing here, and I believe that there is an enormous opportunity for some of the biggest brands in the world, biggest companies in the world.
I mean, Gary Vee saying it's the only conference in his life he's ever attended twice. So how... we talked about lifestyle deficit disorder. We've talked about the dark days, and you've emerged, and you took that leap, and you've sort of talked to me about how you've come out of that. How do you get a Gary Vee? How do you get these awesome names? What was the defining moment or the defining tools or the people that helped Dig South go from the idea in 2011 through the dark days if there were dark days, to today, how'd you get there?
I'm an eternal optimist, so I have dark moments, maybe a dark day, but they don't last very long. I don't know if I can't remember them, or if I just roll on. So in the case of Gary, it's a lot like, how you watch the Grammys and there's some new artist and they come up and they win the new artist award and they've been recording for 20 years.
Right.
It's just the first album that anyone discovered and they've been in 10 different bands.
That's what's happening with me right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the case of Dig South, I had worked at media companies in a lot of different capacities and for a big record producer and other folks, and on the periphery of technology, had a small tech startup, and 15 years before that, and it seemed like an overnight thing, but I started with building blocks. So first year, I called in every favor I ever had. Everyone I knew, I called them and said, hey, we used to work together at Spin, or you work here. My sister's at CNN. My brother-in-law's at Coke. Who do you know that fits what we want to bring in here and what we're doing? And can you convince them that this is going to be a legit, real thing? And so, but I did start in Charleston with CRDA, Charleston Regional Development Alliance,
Sure.
and the Digital Corridor, and the SCRA, and the Charleston County Development, Office. And I went to all of those groups and said, if we put all this together, would you support it? And by and large, they all said yes. I think a lot of them, well, yeah, sure, maybe you'll pull it off, maybe you won't. We hear pitches every day. But it was very meaningful when we went to Spark, and we gave the pitch to them, and they wrote us a check for $5,000, our very first cash sponsor, and it felt very real at that moment, like, wow, now we got to pull this off. We got to go do something with it, So back to Gary, so each year, then I very methodically built an advisory committee. I continued to network with the previous speakers, the previous attendees, calling on them. Who do you know? Who should we bring in? What do you want to see? And then I just doggedly pursued every single lead, and I had hundreds of turn downs for every top speaker we got. Gary, the way that worked, Jesse Redness was one of our speakers. In the very first 2 years of Dig South. He then formed a partnership with Gary in Brave Ventures and Brave Media. So when I got in touch with Jesse through Michelle Van Jura here in town, they're friends, he's like, sure, well, I'll shoot Gary a text and see if he'll do it. And then he said yes. So you put him in touch with my people. And so, Jesse had a good time. He vouched for us. And then Gary, came along after that. So that's the way it's worked every year, is just that, and me just obsessively focusing on how to bring value to them. Make sure they have a good experience as much as possible with our limited budget, small team, but what can we do to make it feel special? How can we host it in a venue that's not a typical hotel that could be in any city in America? How do we make sure the networking events have a unique feel or take advantage of the fact that we're in Charleston? Let's drive people to walk around, experience the city. Because I feel like if you were going to Orlando or Vegas or a lot of other cities and they just had it at some hotel, you might wake up in the morning and go, I could be anywhere in America.
Right.
And this doesn't feel special. It doesn't have this kind of moment. So I think of Charleston as the closer, but it really creates more special interactions, collisions, moments for people to converge so that we get a bump off that too in our efforts, and Charleston's helping us do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a native, so.
Right. So
yeah.
you've
So I'm
seen it.
fond of Charleston, but like I've said before, I'm a huge supporter of Dig South, and I will always be. So because of what you've done for this great city.
Thank you. Well, we've had an incredible amount of support and help along the way. It's not just me or our team doing it. It's you and thousands of other people just wanting this to be here.
I think that's been the theme on the Perfect Day podcast is people. It's about the people behind you and support. That's correct. Yeah, the relationships. So I do want to we've transitioned a little bit from State A, the lifestyle deficit disorder of the beginnings of an awesome conference. What's a perfect day for Dig South today? 2018, Dig South's over.
Okay.
Which means it's April 27th. Isn't the conference 25th,
Yes,
26th?
we close on the 27th.
So April 27, the conference is over. You look at Sunny, and why is the day perfect?
The day is perfect because the people that attended were able to find what they were looking for, and that could be a new investor, it could be a new client, it could just be a new relationship, it could be a new employee, it could be a number of things, and they were either able to find that or they could see that they could find that through what we presented and what we established. So this year, with our tip of the spear approach, we built a Dig South Tech Index. So it's the top 500 tech companies in the South. We used a couple of different data sets, and we aggregated them. And so there's a growth score, an employee headcount, venture capital raised, location, industry, and we thought, okay, this is really our core audience. These are the companies we can help the most. This turns it into more of a type of summit. And so we still want to bring in big names. We still want to connect with leading brands, but we want to make that secondary to the companies that are truly growing and scaling and need our help and meeting each other and building that and succeeding together in the South. So we're kind of, that's always been the case, but we're more keenly focused on drilling down into that. So at the end of that perfect day, that group realizes, wow, I did not know there were this many companies in Nashville and Charlotte, and Raleigh, Durham, and Atlanta, and Greenville around us, and Charleston, of course, because we're here in Charleston. I was not aware that there were this many other innovators and thinkers doing similar things, and now I feel more connected. I feel more alive, and I feel like I'm in a real scene, and this region can thrive, and it's a good place to do that.
So connections for startups.
Sure, some startups, but not necessarily early stage. A lot of growth stage startups that need to get over the hump. So they've got 25 employees, they've raised maybe a Series A, but they need a Series B, and they need to survive and grow beyond just the idea. So if I could go back to the early days for a second. Early on, Dig South served a couple of purposes. We had the conference, we had the mashups, but there were very few events here for early stage companies. And so since that time, now we have Women in Tech and the Harbor doing 1 million cups and Startup Weekend.
Right.
And probably close to a dozen, 12, 15 groups. Startup Grind, trying to think of some others, Creative Mornings. And all of these groups are picked up the baton and are doing a fantastic job with what we did in the first 2 years with early stage. So now we see, okay, well, we've matured and grown as a company. We believe we can add even more value to growth stage companies by bringing in VCs and higher level investors, by attracting bigger speakers that will legitimately look at them as potential clients and collaborative opportunities, not just I'm parachuting in to talk and aren't I great, but hey, there's something happening here, I need to pay attention. So we feel like that we can do kind of move up the ladder there and do a really good job of helping companies get to that next stage. While we're not excluding early stage startups by any means, they're still a big part of it. They still participate and they're in the pitch. But we feel like we can attract, in addition to that, we can attract growth stage and mature and higher level companies and big brands that are looking for those opportunities.
Sure.
So that's where we are today.
Awesome. You have shared many things about what's going to make a perfect day. I've heard really hard work. I've heard sort of honing a niche, the tip of the spear. What other strategies? You wake up in the morning, you have a fresh start. What does Stan do to make a perfect day in the day of Dig South?
Well, it begins with my kids and Sonny. When we have a great morning and we send them off to school and everyone's happy and we've all had big hugs and had, that moment in time, that centers me, and I know that's like the most important thing, and that's essential. And so I don't want to let any crazy energy or my angst or I'm hyper focused on executing something, allow me to dismiss the small moments.
Did you learn that in a good way or a bad way?
No, I think I've learned that in a good, both, primarily
came naturally.
Really good ways. I learned that my parents got divorced when I was a senior in high school, and I just wanted to blast out of there and you guys figure out your life and I'm going to go do my thing. And it was very contentious, and it was kind of a dark period, in terms of their relationship.
Right.
But very fortunately, we've all reconnected over the years since then. We're all really close now and tight. I'm very fortunate that they're still with us and that everyone gets along, everyone's remarried, and I know that I'm so grateful for that because I know that doesn't happen to everyone. And so I think for me, having gone through that and being on the other side, I know I've already lived that. So I'm not perfect in my relationship with my kids, but I know what not to do and what it feels like when it's good and connected and what it feels like when it's not.
And that's your priority and a start to a perfect day. I think that's beautiful.
So that's step one.
Yeah.
Step two for me is a more individualized personal thing where I've gotten into meditation. And so, but I fall in and out of that. When I do it, I have a far better day, just in general. Even if the day sucks and something goes wrong, I still, at the end of that day, I don't feel as fried as if I meditated that morning or pray or, whatever works for someone. When I do that and spend that time, even if it's 10 minutes to sort of calibrate myself, then I call it, I always tell Sonny, it's sort of the burn behind your eyes you get. If I don't do it, I feel like the back of my eyes are fried. Like it's almost like I can't see as well or focus.
Yeah.
If I meditated that morning, I've noticed, hey, even though that today was kind of rough, the back of my eyes don't feel as burned or tired.
I have never
5
linked
p.m.
that to the days I've skipped my meditation. I will think on that.
And maybe it's because my face is tighter or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But something physiological.
Something to remember, right. We are out of time, regretfully. I'd love to do a very quick tech smackdown with Stan Gray. Can we do it?
Let's do it.
All right. Upwork or Guru?
Neither.
Twitter or Snapchat?
Twitter.
LinkedIn or Shaper?
LinkedIn.
Facebook or Instagram?
I'm torn. I'm on Facebook much more frequently, but I feel like I'm doing battle with Facebook over all sorts of issues recently. Privacy and fake, bots promoting Russian agendas and the fact
That's an Insta.
Yes, and Facebook claiming they're not a media company when they are. They're the new media company.
Zoom or Skype?
Skype.
Match or Tinder? Just kidding.
Married.
Just kidding. Mint or Personal Capital?
I haven't.
Or the AlphaVest app?
AlphaVest. Sure.
Right.
There we go.
Right. Yeah. Go to meeting versus Uber conference?
Uber conference.
Outlander versus Shark Tank?
Wow. I haven't.
Just teasing.
What is Outlander?
Yes.
Yeah.
Stan, thank you so much for being a part of many of my perfect days. And I can't thank you enough for what you've done here for Charleston and Dig South. And I look forward to this year's conference, April 25th, 26th, 27. digsouth.com. Get your badges today. I have my VIP badge.
Outstanding.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing you and everyone else at Dig South.
Cokie, I'm very grateful for your support and this opportunity to be on the show and for everything you're doing for Dig South.
Thank you. And I am wishing you and Dig South many perfect days in 2018. Thank you.